What's up, you guys? Welcome to today's video. As you can tell by the title, I have a crazy story for you guys today. We're gonna be talking about how my public defender defended me with not only a lie, but was uninterested in helping me build a defense. So, if you're new to my channel, hi, thank you so much for clicking on it and taking the time out of your day to listen to my crazy life story. If you don't already know, I'm a recovering addict who served time in prison, and I will leave my entire life story in the description box down below. If you want to follow me on any other social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, Patreon, all of that is linked down below, or maybe it'll pop up on screen, maybe it won't, who knows. For the sake of time, let's just go ahead and get started today. So just a little bit of a recap. If you are new, I am from upstate New York. I've been arrested many times. I'm not green when it comes to the legal system as far as New York goes. I can pretty definitively tell you, if you tell me your charges and your criminal background, what you're going to get in the state of New York, because everything is black and white, and I could understand it, you know? Not only is New York state law very easy to understand, but it's very consistent. And I always had access to legal material when I was arrested. So let's fast forward. I went on the run from some charges that I was innocent of in New York in 2011. I traveled with this magazine company. That story's linked below, or I'll put it up here. And I eventually found my way to Arkansas, where I had a friend there. And in Arkansas, I became very addicted to meth, and I was on it for about 7 months or so. I was also using at that time, and my addiction was very, very dark. I had never been so sick as I was on meth at that time. I wasn't eating, I wasn't drinking, I wasn't around anybody that I really knew. Even baby daddy, I didn't know him. He didn't know anything about me other than my name was Jess and I'm from New York. I was very closed off. I wouldn't tell anyone anything about me, and I was always that way though. You know, I have a really hard time making friends, and I'm very introverted, awkward, weird duck of a person. So when I was on a substance, that amplified even worse. And I was extremely insecure at that time as well. So I was not bubbly. I would not even have a conversation with people if I didn't have to, because I knew that I was sick. I knew that I didn't look healthy. I didn't look good. And when you don't look good, you don't feel good, you know? And I knew that I didn't look good. Anyway, I get arrested October 20th of 2011 for delivery of meth, possession of meth with intent to deliver, and simultaneous possession of drugs and a firearm. After a few weeks goes by, I'm able to kind of sober up and realize, oh shit, I need to start working on a defense. Not only did I find out that I had all of these charges once my mind kind of started to clear up a little bit, but I also at the same time found out I was pregnant, and I had my daughter while I was in prison. That story is also linked down below. So now here we are. My mind is starting to clear up a little bit. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to start building my defense. I need to go over everything. I need to get my motion of discovery. I need to get legal material. Let's do this. I immediately asked one of the correctional officers for legal material, for legal books, and she looked me dead in my face and laughed at me. And she said, don't you realize where you are? We don't have that here. So now, hello, New York mind. I'm like, oh my God, what do you mean you don't have law books? Like, I'm sorry, is this not a jail? Is this not a jail? Always in New York, every time I was arrested, I always had access to legal material. I just asked the guard. I put in a request for whatever book I needed, and usually I knew the numbers of the books because I'm a super nerd, and I would read them in the day room for hours. So I asked the guard, and she laughed in my face. So I'm like, oh, maybe that guard's just being an asshole, you know, it's fine. I'll just ask another guard. I got the same answer. And finally, one of the other inmates was like, girl, you're not getting a legal book. I've never seen a legal book in my life, and I've been locked up, you know, 10 times. And I'm like, what? What'd you get locked up for? Why are you here? You know, and she said possession of meth. And I'm like, oh, how much did you have? And she said that she had a like gram or something, and she's going to prison. And I'm like, shit. For a gram. Okay, I know I'm going to prison, but I'm trying to like reduce the time here. So I meet my lawyer for the first time, and I understand that public defenders are extremely busy. They're overworked and underpaid. I understand that completely. There are some amazing public defenders out there that give everything they have to their job. This person is not that person. He looked at my case and he looked at my charges and everything, and then folded my file and said, "You're going to prison. I'll try to negotiate, you know, for a decent deal, but the first offer that's gonna be on the table is gonna be 20 years. And I'm over here like Kevin Hart, like, whoa, you can't just speed past there and pretend like you didn't just say what you just said. So I'm like, you might wanna open that file back up and start rereading. I'm not accepting 20 years. He's like, no, it's not 20 years. You'll do a third of your time or a half of your time. And I'm like, what? What do you mean a third or a half? It's very different mathematically. So what do you mean? He's like, well, you know, maybe we can get the gun no processed. Maybe we can reduce it a little bit and get it down to a third of your time. And I'm like, and if we can't? He said, then it'll be half a gun charge is serious. And I was like, okay. No, let's start building a defense, okay? First of all, they did not read me my rights. Second of all, the gun was found after our search, after I'm not even on the scene anymore. He stops me right there and says, none of that matters in the state of Arkansas. You were arrested. These are your charges. You're going to prison. You just need to accept that. And I'm like, no, I know I'm going to prison, but I'm not going for 20 years. I'm not going for 20 years. Isn't it your job to build a defense? And he said, it's my job to get you a good deal. And I'm like, you think 20 years is a good deal? I mean, it's not. I'm not signing that ever. And he said, well, you should have thought about cooperating. And I'm just frozen now. I'm frozen in time because he just wants me to get out of this little room that I was taken to go over all of this stuff. He doesn't even care what I have to say. As a lawyer, he did not care that I was not read my rights. As a lawyer, he did not care that at the time of my arrest, when they were searching our vehicle, the gun was found after I was already in the cop car being taken to the jail. It wasn't found while I was on scene. It was brought to the jail after. You know, it didn't make any sense to me. As a New Yorker, I knew that the car is not registered to me. I mean, I could have built a defense if I had the time and if I had the money. What's interesting about the way that our legal system works is if half of all the people that were arrested wanted to take their things to trial, we would be gridlocked. Nothing would get done. And the jails would just be overflowing with people because they would be sitting there waiting for a very long time. As it is, you wait years to go to trial. And people are pushed and forced into taking deals that they don't agree with. I was not going to be intimidated. And I'm not saying that because I'm tough and I'm so badass. I am not going to be intimidated. So I pushed back and I said, I guess we're gonna go to trial. So I remember going back to my unit, upset, irritated, confused. My lawyer doesn't care about building a defense for me. He doesn't care about what happened on the scene. He doesn't care that I'm an addict. He doesn't care about any of my past substance abuse issues, my mental health, doesn't care about that, doesn't care about the fact that I was not read my rights or the gun was found after the fact, or even in my delivery charge, it was handed to me and then I just handed it to someone else. That wasn't even my deal. But that's a story for another time. All of the things I tried to tell him to build a defense went right out the window. So let's fast forward. Months go by. He offers me a 10-year deal. I say, no, we're going to trial. He offers me a 5-year deal. And I never signed a piece of paper so fast in my life. That whole time, for 6 months, I'm pushing back and fighting and getting legal advice from my friend Jason, who is now in prison, who gets out next year, next June. I'm so freaking excited about it. I'm getting legal advice from him because he's the only person in the world that I trust. I don't trust my lawyer. He doesn't care. I'm just a case. You know, I can't trust people that I'm in the pod with. I can't talk about my case with anyone except for my friend Jason. And I can't talk about it on postcards or in the mail. I have to talk about it to him in the hallway. And he just always told me, be patient, wait it out, just be patient. Don't you dare take a plea without talking to me, which the day that my lawyer came for the 5 years, I asked Jason in the hallway and I made him run down. He was in the shower. I've told the story before, but he was in the shower and I get to the FF pod in Sebastian County Jail and I'm like, get Forrester. And people take off to the shower and they're like, yo, New York's at the door. That's what they called me. And he runs down half naked trying to put his clothes on, almost slips and falls. And I was like, that was hilarious. Cause he's like stumbling down the stairs. He's like, what? And I'm like, 5 years? Should I sign for 5 years? He was so irritated, but also relieved for me that I got, 5 years. But 5 years wasn't just 5 years. So I get taken to court to officially get my sentence. And it's been 6 months. So I'm 6 months pregnant. I have to pee every 10 minutes. And I'm standing in front of this judge happy because it's over. I can get out of this county jail and I can go do my bid. And I had told my lawyer, because this is something that's different in Arkansas too, you have to ask for your time served. You have to ask for your time served. That is a given in New York. The day that you're arrested, if you're arrested at 11:58 p.m., you get credit for the whole day, okay? So I didn't know that I had to ask until, months had gone by. And I made sure to ask my lawyer that day. I'm like, I'm getting time served, right? I'm getting my time. I'm getting my 6 months onto my sentence, right? And I had to just double check and triple check because they didn't care. What's it to them? This is a case solved, right? I'm standing in front of the judge, smiling, excited. We're finally here. It's finally over. I can go to prison and get this behind me. The judge looks at me and says, I wouldn't be so callous about this if I were you, Miss Kent. Because I was smiling. I'm like, shit, bro, I'm just happy to be here. I'm just trying to go, And he's looking over everything. And my lawyer apologizes for my smile. And I'm just relieved, you know what I mean? It's been a long 6 months for me. My lawyer says, in my defense, this is what he has thought my defense is for having drugs. Your Honor, my client used her feminine charm to work her way up the drug ladder in our state. She is extremely remorseful for what she has done, and she will never do it again. And I'm standing there, disgusted. And I said, I'm like that cat. I'm sitting there like this, like, what did you just say? I used my feminine charm. I was just mortified that he said that. I was embarrassed that in a crowded courtroom he said that. That wasn't a proper defense at all. The defense should have been that not only was this car not registered to me, maybe I was just getting a ride. The gun was found when I wasn't even there. They didn't even read me my rights. No, that's not what he said. My client used her feminine charm to work her way up the drug ladder, which is crazy because for a long time while I was in New York, my dealer was a female, a married female. It just blew my mind how little he understood me or my story, and how the guy that I was dating was no longer a connect for me. He hadn't been a connect for me since the first, month that I had met him. And I only called him if my other people weren't available. I didn't use my feminine charm to get drugs. And even if I had, that would be a conversation that I would have with my lawyer, not something that you throw at a judge at the last second, not something that should leave me shocked. But I was genuinely shocked that he said that. And even if I am a sex worker, that's okay. But that shouldn't just be thrown around. He just said something that I wasn't even aware of that he would try to say for me, right? And everything from a legal standpoint, everything that I had told him was completely dismissed by him. And I felt so betrayed in that moment. And just to back up a little bit, when we were about to go into the courtroom, my lawyer made me sign the plea where he said it's 5 years, 15 suspended, 40 years exposure, which is essentially, from my understanding, a suspended sentence in the feds. So as soon as I was off of parole, that's when my suspended sentence kicked in. So I am currently under a suspended sentence with the state of Arkansas, meaning if I commit another felony in Arkansas, they're gonna revoke that suspended sentence, or they have the option to. I was just mortified. I was able to get out on bond for 2 weeks, and my bond was revoked because someone said that I was gonna run back to New York, which may or may not have been true. But I went to someone's court hearing, and after that court hearing, that same lawyer came up to me and he said, what are you doing watching thugs get sentenced? And that was somebody he was representing. He didn't care about us. He didn't care about the clients. He didn't care about any of it. It just always really bothered me. So I go to prison, I do my time, I get out, and now I'm at the courthouse, the same courthouse I was sentenced at, but this time it's a family court, which is a different wing of this building, but I saw my public defender come through, and he sees me, and he stops, and I'm holding my daughter, and he said, it's really good to see you. And I took one look at him and I said, get away from me. The next time a client asks you to defend her, maybe you shouldn't say that she used feminine charm. Maybe you should actually listen to the legal defense that would make sense in a courtroom. Please leave. And he walked off. Defend me with the law. Fight for me. If you're my lawyer, that's your job, And there's so much that we have to change to our legal system. We shouldn't just be a case number. We shouldn't just be just another number that they're trying to get through the system. We're people. And yes, I made a mistake. I understand that, which I take full responsibility for. I was guilty. But let me defend myself. Let me build a case. It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. And I always learned different ways to defend myself based on the law. You know, it's not what the cops know. It's what you can prove in the court of law based on our laws. And I just always thought, as long as I understood the law, I would be kind of okay, you know? But Arkansas it was almost as if they spun a wheel and they're like, that's the time that you're gonna get because the wheel of fortune said so. It never made sense to me. I still don't fully understand what an exposure sentence means or exposure time. You know, it's just so confusing there. In short, it does not pay to sell dope. In short, it does not pay to live in that world. And you are just one mistake away from spending the rest of your life in a prison cell. And it took me a long time to figure that out. I'm gonna end today's video here. As always, I love you guys. Stay safe, stay sober, whatever that looks like to you, because there's no wrong way to recover. And I will see you guys in my next one.